All right, guys, we're live. Hey,
We're
today
live.
I got Cazcanes on and I got the whole freaking crew. Guys, I've always done one-on-one with people, so I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with four people or three people. I may talk to myself, so we'll say four.
It's all good. We're excited to be here, and I think this is it's going to be a good time. The more, the
Yes,
merrier.
we're gonna have a great time. So I've known you guys or your tequila from another distillery, and I fell in love with the tequila there. And up until some of the stuff that I've just recently gotten, I actually got to try the new distillery for the very, very first time. I've been holding on to those old bottles because I generally know how things roll when you start moving things around and some of the flavor profiles change. But it didn't change really that much from the distillery to distillery. And I've gotten into the number 7 Blanco and the number 9 Blanco already. And, just like a lot of tequilas, let it breathe a little bit. And man, all that flavor really starts to pop.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
all of you are of some part of Cazcanes.
We're all of Cazcanes.
You're all
This is it right here. Yeah.
You're looking at it.
So you guys want to explain what each one of you do? So
we pretty much all do. I mean, we wear many hats, right? I mean, there's three of us, so I mean, we're on the phone with each other constantly, multiple times a day. Jose runs all the operations down in Mexico. He lives in Guadalajara, so he's at the facility four times a week, sometimes more. And then Edwin and I run everything here in the States and do sales and marketing and everything else that's involved in running the brand.
So how long ago did this brand become a whole?
So the brand started. I mean, so Jose's been around since day one, 2013, I think, right? Is when you first started.
2013.
So two of my brother-in-law started the brand. One of my brother-in-laws, Colin, he's still involved. He's a winemaker. So he grows his own grapes, makes his own wine from scratch. And 2013, he wanted to explore making tequila. So he ended up going down to Mexico, meet Jose. And Jose started taking him all around to all the different distilleries. And quickly, they both realized that tequila is typically a white label game, right? Everybody's handing him worksheets on how he wants tequila to taste, and he thought, if this is how you make tequila, I don't want to do it. I mean, he's a super creative guy. Like I said, he makes his own wine. He's a musician. Right now, he's been making gin and whiskey, and so he's always creating. So he's got an amazing palate. So if he's not actually involved in the process, I mean, he just didn't want to have anything to do with it. He wanted to be completely involved in the creative process. So during that whole exploration mission, they realized that sort of doesn't really exist, right? So at some point in time, they almost gave up on the project. Jose and Colin were driving through a small town of Magdalena, and they asked, Jose, who's this guy with you? What are you guys doing? And they explained the story. And the guy said, hey, there's a guy in the middle of the jungle making a tequila moonshine that's amazing. Maybe there's an opportunity there. You should meet up with him. So then he proceeded to take Jose and Colin out into the middle of the jungle, and they met up with Humberto. And Humberto started working with Humberto, developing a relationship with him. And Humberto started teaching him, my brother Colin and Jose, how to make tequila. So that's basically where it came from. I mean, it was a year going back and forth between the States and Mexico, and Colin worked with Humberto to learn how to produce tequila. And so, he's using a recipe that's hundreds of years old. It's been passed down through generations. He himself learned from his father, who learned from his grandfather and his grandfather's uncle. And I mean, we've heard all these stories, but they had originally thought that they could work with Humberto, right, and get his facility certified by the CRT, but it's too remote. It just wasn't a possibility. So that's when they ended up finding Familia Landeros, which is what you and I were talked offline, that you have some stuff from the old facility, and started working with their master distiller, Don Chico, and then taking what Colin had learned from the jungle and then bringing it into a more commercialized distillery. Don Chico's been doing this for 40 years. But at the time, Familia Landeros didn't have a NOM. They weren't certified by the CRT. So that's when Jose stepped in and started helping behind the scenes to get that certification. So the first batch that they produced that was certified by the CRT was in 2017. And Colin had given it to a friend to drive it up to San Francisco World Spirits and made it there just under the wire, right? Just under the deadline. And it ended up getting a double gold. So then he thought, hey, maybe we have something here. Part of the magic too, and I skipped over this, Jose could talk about it a little bit, but is the water source. So when they were producing the tequila in the jungle, Umberto has a natural spring that produces, and Umberto always talks about the importance of water. His dad had moved from one facility or one location to another just because the water was better. And he says, you have to have good water to make good tequila. So obviously that always sat with Colin. And so when we moved to Familia Landeros, I mean, they have a deep well, water, but we wanted something different. So Jose's hometown of Ocotipaquillo is fed by a natural spring called Naviche Springs. It's a volcanic spring that just it's got a waterfall. It's beautiful. So Jose was able to work out a deal with the town that we're able to utilize that water, and we trucked that in. We started back then, and we still do to this day, truck that water in for all of our productions. So, and then in 2018, we got another double gold and best in show, best unaged spirit, best tequila. And so realized that there was something there. And when did we move to TTAP?
We moved to TTAP in April of 2022. And just to go back a little bit on that, during that process that we were learning about, well-made tequilas, we learned that water was super important, the quality of the agave, and taking out the cogollo. That was like always good water, good agave, and then good practices will always bring out with a good tequila at the end. So that's why the importance of when we moved to Familia Landeros and to where we are right now, water has always been water, water, water. So every time we made negotiations to our previous distillery to the current one that we have right now, is like, okay, we want in, but these are our conditions. One, we need to truck in our water. So, I mean, just to throw in a little bit on that, it was always like a water, and it's always been super important for us, and it still is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so basically 2022 is when Familia Landeros is a great facility, but I don't know if you've been there, CJ, but it's very small. There would have been no way for us to ever scale or grow there. So we started looking
about $15.99.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a boutique distillery, but it's just very tiny. And so we started looking, and then it took us, when we did engage with TTAP, we were there for 10 to 11 months, just doing experimental batches, just to try to, you had mentioned that the flavor profiles are almost identical, but that wasn't any accident. I mean, as you know, that's not very common when people move distilleries. No. We were very cognizant of that. So we spent a lot of time working with TTAP. We brought over our entire team. So we had our master distiller, Don Chico. We brought over Nestor, who's our chemist. Of course, the rest of the team, Colin, we all went over there. And of course, we brought our water. And then it was batch after batch after batch to try to see how, we just fine-tuned things, between subsequent batches until we got it to where we felt that it was as good or better than what we had been doing before. So.
Yeah, it took us 11 months actually to release our first batch of Blanco. Mm-hmm. 11 months. And previous to that, we were analyzing our mosto, our fresh mosto, our dead mosto, our finished product, after product. We were sending it to labs and just trying to replicate as close as possible what we were, we're trying to, I like to say that we changed kitchens, but we have the same chefs. Same chefs.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So,
and with more tools, like
the same master distiller,
correct,
from each distiller that you guys went to.
Correct.
It's the same team. So we took the entire team. I mean, all of us, including master distiller and our chemist, and moved everybody. So it's like Jose said, same chefs, different kitchen, and it's a bigger kitchen with more toys,
Yeah.
more capacity, more capabilities. So it's been a great move, great relationship, and then on top of it too, they have ties with Magna Campo, which is a large agave producers. They're the third largest in Mexico. They have over 7,000 hectares of organic agave. So not only is it organic, but it's also they've got an immense amount of agave, right? So I mean, obviously you need good quality agave to produce tequila. They have it, and with that amount of agave, we're always able to find agave in a state of maturation that's going to make amazing tequila, right? So it's all about, it's about the maturity and the sugar levels and everything. So we inspect and select each field every time we're doing a production. Where in the past, we had to go onto the open market, and then look for that agave. And sometimes, I mean, we're not going to produce if we don't find good agave. And sometimes we'd have to wait a month, 2 months. Sometimes we'd have to delay production because we were waiting to find the right agave. But now that's not an issue anymore.
So when you were mentioning, bricks level and maturity, I mean, is there one that kind of overweighs the other? I know they both kind of coincide, but some agaves will produce amazing sugar content at a younger age than others, just depending on how they are in the soil. And I know that a lot of the soil around your guys' distillery and in there in tequila, it's very volcanic. So you're getting, a lot of minerality in it, and the water generally kind of stays towards the top. So it really counts on the rainy season, to do it. Not that it needs a lot, but
right.
What is it that you're shooting for more so than anything?
Jose can speak on that. So
we're shooting to have about 24 ART minimum at the facility, which means that at the field there should be around 40 bricks. Again, when we moved into Tequila Tap and partner up with Magno Campo, that was in 2022. We were still kind of at the agave shortage, so it was hard still to get agave, but that made it like we were able to breathe a little bit more because they had more to choose from. But as of now, it's a 6-year-old. I mean, there's a lot changing right now because of all the agave that's out there. They were reaching out 4 or 5 in 5 years of maturity or the bricks levels because they were adding a lot of stuff because they were fast forwarding the maturity, right? Now, if you
in general, not our production.
In general,
right?
No, in general, yeah, not us. In general, like everybody, right? Not us. Right now, a good agave, 6-year-old, 24 ARTs is it's what Cazcanes is looking for, and like putting a little bit more emphasis on what John Paul was saying, we go and select different fields, and we do a random, I would say, measurement throughout different piñas, through different sizes, throughout the whole field, not just like one section. We just go in because 2-3 hectares are going to be different. It's a lot of property, and volcanic soil, red soil, we have it all. I mean, that's a little bit the jinx of what we do.
Awesome.
I mean, did that answer your question?
Absolutely. Absolutely, it did.
And agave seems to be maturing faster, maybe with climate change or whatever the case is. But you're seeing before you'd have to have 8-year-old, 10-year to get sugar levels that high. But now, right. if plus they've gotten better with managing the fields and growing them in an appropriate way, that they're actually maturing better because they're tending to the fields, making sure they're not competing with other crops and weeds and so on and so forth. So the agaves are actually maturing faster, is what we're noticing.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little bit earlier, you left 1599 and went to the new distillery because they have more toys.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that they had you that, you guys decided this is going to be our house at least for however long? What was it that turned you on that,
quite a few things.
Obviously, so excited to play with?
Sure. Well, obviously,
The biggest thing also, sorry to cut you off, John Paul, was we simply, before even looking for new tools, we simply just outgrew the facility at 1599, unfortunately. If you've been there, which I'm sure you have, see the size of the barrel room and the bottling area, and it just got to a point where it wasn't feasible for us to really continue as a brand there. And it was unfortunate. We loved our relationship there, and just simply, brands grow, and we have to look for the next best thing. And going to T-Tap was pretty incredible because they had so many tools. I mean, one thing that stood out to us is, they have your autoclaves, they have your roller mills, they also have Ornos, they also have Tahonas, single barrel stainless steel tanks. We never had access to that. So as a brand in the past, like, we would have a standout barrel and we would have to rush to pull it because it was ready to go. Now we have the luxury of obviously pulling a barrel, letting it rest in stainless steel single barrel tanks, and really giving us time to situate where single barrel is going, who it's going to end up with, and we can kind of strategize different bottling schedules around that versus, hey, we got to pull this and bottle it tomorrow. So it gave us a lot of opportunity to kind of play around with a lot of special releases and things like that.
Yeah, like your latest one, the Rosa. You got the Rosa Blanco and the Rosa Reposado.
Exactly.
So, awesome. And to elaborate a little bit on what your question and what Edwin was saying is, when we initially went there, obviously we're trying to replicate a flavor profile, right? So they had autoclaves, which is what we've always done purposefully, because we like the flavor profile. They concentrate the flavors of the agave. We're agave forward, flavor profile tequila. So we were looking to replicate that. So they had autoclave, which we could run at low pressure. So a lot of people are running them at high, but we purposely, intentionally use them at low pressure, and Don Chico monitors that like a hawk. But they also had a brick oven. So we thought, okay, cool, we could try some. We love being experimental, which I don't know if you've noticed, but so it gives us that opportunity to do something there. Plus they had the Tahona. And then, as Edwin touched on, they have the single barrel tanks. I mean, I've toured numerous facilities. I've never seen one of those. And then they have a subterranean barrel room. So it's they have a sunk in the ground 4,000 barrel room that we were able to utilize. So as Edwin touched on before, there was no room at our previous facility. I mean, we were capped out on our barrels. So when you go into this place and you see, oh my gosh, look at all the storage. And when we first got there, it hadn't even been filled yet. So we started seeing like, oh wow, look at all this room for barrels that we can actually start utilizing. At this stage, I think they're even expanding on that because it's the 4,000 barrels are full. We have about 1,200. I think, do we get another 200 or so, Jose?
About 1,200 now.
1,200 or so barrels. Yeah. And so, but we're still looking for more, right? So, but having this partnership is allowing us to grow like that. It wouldn't have been possible before. So and then also they just recently, as of I think they started at the end of last year. It's still not entirely complete, but they're actually doubling the size of the production facility. So they've added some full copper pot stills that were custom made for them in Brazil. And then they're going to add some more autoclaves, more brick ovens, Tahona, more fermentation tanks. So, and they're not even at their capacity yet. So they're just looking ahead and saying, look, like, let's double our capacity, even though we don't need to yet, right? And they're just, before there's a problem, they're addressing it. But we're excited because we've got this full copper pot still that we can play with.
So we're going to expect something out of there soon?
Yeah, we're working on it, yeah.
No elaboration there. Yeah, maybe.
There's always something up our sleeves. It's we've always been a very experimental brand, so and we're staying true to that regardless of the size that the brand's grown. Like JP said, we're at about 1,200 barrels, but everything we did when we were at less than 20 barrels, we're still doing at a larger scale, whether it's from the water to the same exact team that we had. And we still go out to Mexico frequently and try every single barrel and write notes on every single barrel we have in the barrel room. So the blending techniques and everything that we've done since day one is still current.
Yeah, we still go down. I mean, it's I think it's at least once a month, and go down and create new blends. So as Edwin touched on, we open every barrel, taste and write notes on every barrel, and then create blends. So that's why we say we age to taste, not time. Like we're not formulaic. We're not saying, okay, our repos are a 3 month or a 2 month or a 6 month, whatever the case is. We're actually creating blends from all those barrels we're trying. And depending on how it shakes out, again, I mean, every barrel has its own unique personality, right? It's a natural product. It's wood. You don't know what the history was all the time, and so it will give you different flavor profiles. So we're going through and trying all those, and then creating a blend to create the best flavor profile we can. When that's whether it's a reposado or an añejo, and then soon next year extra añejo. We'll be releasing some extra añejo then.
Oh well, I can't wait for that one. So, you guys more than anybody, and maybe it's because we got 3 chiefs here. You guys have 3 proofs, 7, 9, and 10. Is it because one of you likes standard proof, or is it just purely?
That's a good one, actually.
That's a good way to look at it. But honestly, I think it's more. The number 9 was our original Blanco. That was the original formula that Colin had worked with Jose, and that's the one that we sent up to San Francisco World Spirits. But we wanted to, and that's great for aficionados, right? I mean, I love the number 9. I think maybe all of us here do. But there are people who are just beginning their agave journey, and maybe a high proof is a little bit too much for them, right? Absolutely. So we wanted to make it a little bit more accessible to everybody. So we came out with the number 7, which is our 80 proof. And then I think we all love still strengths. And so it was one of those things like, hey, what is this going to taste like as a still strength, right? It was just more goodness. I mean, it was just ratcheting up the flavor profile. So we came out with the number 10. So we say this often, it's the Goldilocks story, right? There's something that's just right for everyone. So, I mean, all of us here have done a bunch of tastings and sampled it to thousands of people, and there isn't any one particular, expression that is somebody's is a favorite, right? I mean, it will just go across the board, and people will like argue with each other. No, the number 10 is better. No, the number 7 is better. No, the number. So that's exactly why we do it, right? There's something for everybody. And then it also depends on what you're using it for too, right? I mean, you may want to just sit and sip on the number 7 all day long and not get trashed. You could do the same thing with the number 10, but your day is going to be a lot shorter, right? So it's one of those things.
You start we just at 5 instead of at noon.
Exactly. And then in a cocktail, it doesn't get diluted. So
it's funny too. It was like an internal battle, like John Paul touched on. It was, the brand started with a number 9 100 proof Blanco. At the time, there was very few brands that did high proof. It was ahead of its time for sure. Now it's blowing up with all the new brands as well. But it was an internal battle to even release an 80 proof Blanco for our brand. Everybody was always like, why would we do that? Like you're just diluting the flavor profile more. But at the end of the day, we are a brand and there's a Blanco for everyone. So we had to release, a number 7 to kind of complete our number 7 line with the repos and añejos and really cater to, I guess, a more amateur, agave forward drinker. But it's a good stepping stone. I mean, it's an entry level product that people can really get into it and then move their way up as their palate's a little bit more experienced. So there's a Blanco for everyone, and that's kind of how we see it.
And I haven't actually got into the number 10. I only had so much room on my shelf back there. But I brought out the 7 and started out with the 7 just to get the palate warmed up. Okay. And then I went to the 10 or the 9. And yes, I mean, there's so much more of a profile to it. I mean, it's hard to explain to somebody who's never had it, but it's like going from, ice cream cone without sprinkles, and now you add sprinkles to it, type of thing. There's
good analogy.
That's kind of cool. I like that. Yeah.
I mean, there's just that much more of a flavor profile. And now you're going to go make me grab the number 10 because now I got to try the number 10. My glass is empty. So
the cool thing is if you can actually get the same exact batch or batch number across the board, I can teach you how to read them. But if you can find them where all the same and then compare them, it's actually pretty cool because then it's the same agave, same production, everything's exactly the same. It's just the proof, and you'll notice a dramatic difference even with that. Obviously, between batches and different agave and stuff like that, you're going to have variations. But when you have them all from the same exact batch and then go through them, you still will be blown away how different they all are.
Yeah. So going back to some of my original question, is there a preference to you on expression and proof over some of the others? What's your favorite?
You're just asking me?
Well, I'm asking all of you. Who wants to step up first?
Typically, I'll gravitate towards the higher proofs. I mean, like number 9, if I had to, because every batch I think is different, and I have different favorites and different batches. I mean, Jose knows, but like he has to listen to me all the time trying them. But I would probably say on average, I'd probably say the number 9 is usually where I settle. If I had to go across, but there's 10s that'll just blow me away. Like there's certain batches of 10s where I'm just like, this is it. But if I had to pick the average across the board, it would probably be the 9 on the Blancos, if that's what
the Blancos
we're referring to. Yeah.
And how do you feel about the aged?
I still like I'll almost always gravitate towards a higher proof, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, so we'll go with the number 9s on those. I mean, those are usually reserved for single barrels. We don't do number 9s all the time on the aged expressions. So already coming out of the gate, you've got something special, right? It's something different and unique. We purposely were eyeballing it for a while in our notes. That's one of the ones we flagged, and we keep watching it. And then when we will actually we bottle at 50% on those, just because again, we're making it different. I mean, I think one time we did a number 7 extra añejo that was a blend, right, Jose? It was a small blend. It was only like 3 barrels or something like that.
Yeah,
but
like
typically, yeah. But that was just that was like not quite a single barrel, but you know what I mean? It was a very small batch, and we did that at number 7. But typically our single barrels are going to be number 9, and we do that just because of that extra flavor punch that you're going to get from it.
All right, Jose.
Number 9 Blanco. Number 9 Blanco. The number 9 Blanco is always, like JP and Edwin have been saying that I've been involved since day one in the company. And when we were coming out with a profile, as we started to learn and appreciate more about the agave forwardness, when we started drinking at the Jungle, it was 50+ % alcohol, right? It was always high proof. And we're like, oh, wow, this is tequila? Okay, so this is what we like. This is what we want to drink. Then when we started gravitating into making it, tier approved, tequila approved, and all that stuff, we started tasting other profiles, and we're like, we want a little bit higher. That's how we ended up with our number 9, the 50% alcohol, because that's where we found the balance of what we like, and where it expresses the true flavors and aromas of the agave. So originally, that's the one reason why we only had a number 9 Blanco. And like JP was saying, our first batch was in 2017, actual tequila production. Before that, we had already been working on tequila for 2+ years. But an actual tequila labeled Cazcanes with our profile and everything, and 50% alcohol. And like everyone was saying on that too, I don't remember any. I mean, there might have been a round or two, but more so for us, it was because that's where we liked it. That's what we loved and wanted to share with the world. So number 9 Blanco for me.
Okay, so we got 2 for number 9.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have to agree with everyone across the board. I'm a huge fan of our number 9, and honestly, every single barrel that we've released at a number 9, whether it's been a repo or an añejo, I think one of my favorites was a single barrel number 9 XA that we did. It was only 180 bottles in the wood case. That has to be like hands down one of my favorites.
Okay, and I just actually just I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
of course,
I actually got somebody that says they are sipping on a number 9 single barrel añejo right now.
There we go.
Oh,
That's one of my
yeah,
favorites.
yeah.
And honestly,
those-
we just released, we released one with Lucas, we released one with Doug, one with Lou Agave and Aged Agave. I mean, those are all such phenomenal, like, single barrels. They're all at number 9. Some of those were also cooked in an Orno for the first time ever within our company. And that was, pretty much our first production at T-Tap was experimental with an Orno. So it was super special to be able to, isolate those for single barrels and release those as number 9 añejos recently. And I mean, they're amazing. They're all different in their own way. But yeah, number 9 across the board is definitely my favorite. And there's a time and place for every expression, right? Sometimes I like having extra añejo, sometimes it's blanco, sometimes it's a good high proof repo. So
I'm gonna just grab some more of this number 9.
Jose and I were just going through. Oh, go ahead, CJ. I was just gonna.
So I can take in a little bit more. No, you go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, John.
I was just gonna mention, because everyone was talking about number 9, aged expressions, and so as we've already touched on, we go through every barrel, and we just tried some amazing single barrel number 9 añejo that we'll be releasing soon. I mean, we're still working on it, but we've flagged them, tasted them. I mean, they're already phenomenal, and so we're that's look for those sometime
And some
soon.
repos.
Yeah, and some repos. So this is something unique. Like, we found some repos that are just amazing. But they're young, so they're only like a couple months old, 2-3 months old. But the flavor profile on them was just incredible. It was like a number 9 Blanco, but with just the kiss of the wood, but all the stuff you like in from the wood, like the sweetness that comes through, but not overwhelming. It's almost like you still have all that agave punch, but it's almost like a sweetened Blanco in a way, but in a good way, not a artificial type thing. It's like a softened, sweetened number 9, but with just the right amount of the barrel spice and everything. It was great.
And that's kind of what I picture, or what I gather from like a Hoven. You get this nice repo typically, and it's kind of mellowed out a little bit, but then you throw a little bit more heat in it, so you get the nice kiss of the wood and spices that's in there, and then you add that little punch back to it. So when you're sitting there sipping on it, I mean, you have all these amazing flavors, but yet you still know you're drinking, this amazing expression that is, still got the punch, but yet still has that mellow creaminess of the barrel. And it's one of my favorites to play with, because I mean, you do lose some of that punch from the barrel, regardless. Well, I shouldn't say regardless, but as it ages in that barrel longer and longer.
Correct.
Well, I will be in Mexico February 1st, and I'll be in Tequila. So hey, guys, if you guys want to wait until,
well, you're welcome to come to the distillery.
I will make a plan with it, and I'll get with Jose on that at a later time. But yes,
Thanks.
no, absolutely. So
that's another thing. You're welcome to tour the facility. That's something that we started doing this year, which I think is, for us, it's not. It's more about inviting people into our home, so to speak, and letting them see how we do things. I mean, we're all about transparency, and we want to share our story. So Jose does an amazing job, curating that. And most of the time, you'll get Jose there. I don't want to say every time, because super busy guy, but when he can do it, then you'll get a tour with Jose, and he can show you, from beginning to end how we do the production. So it's so if anybody's listening and wants to join, we have a link on the website that allows you to book a tour, and we invite anybody to come out. We love sharing.
That's amazing.
Every now and then you'll see me. Yeah.
Every now and then.
Every now and then, I'll make sure I make time for you.
We'll see you the days you want to answer the door, but you're always there, right?
Exactly.
You'll get to check out our
barrel every day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like JP was saying, and we just want to tell our stories. Cazcanes.com, and then we can always book a tour and just, transparency. That's all that it's all about Cascanes transparency.
Absolutely. So the one thing that I can imagine, at least having three people and you three, but then also having a master distiller, how in the hell did you guys agree on a profile? I mean, that had to be a battle. Did somebody bring a gun and?
No, not really. Honestly, I think we
It
have
was two guns.
similar. Yeah, I mean, and Colin has an amazing palate. So Colin's always involved in this. So Colin and Chico have a great relationship because when Colin first went to Familia Landeros, he worked with very, very closely with Chico, just like he did with Umberto, to
Mhm.
create that flavor profile. So Colin and Chico get along great, and they have a similar palate. So when we sit down and do the blends, like it's always Colin grabbing notes, Chico try this, and so it's usually on these blends, it's Chico, Colin, Jose, myself, Nestor, and Edwin gets to try most of the stuff all the time too. So it's a collab that we all work on, but I would say that 95% of the time we agree. And I think it's probably, I mean, occasionally there might be something where we're like, and then maybe we pull someone in for a tiebreaker or something, but usually we agree. I mean, we also have the master distiller for TTAP. He doesn't work for us, but he doesn't make our product, but he's got, what has he got, 40 years of experience. I mean, he's one of the
Yeah.
original CRT founders. He's used to work for Patron and for Salza when they were good. I think who else did he work? He's worked for like a lot of the big names. So he's got tons of experience. So a lot of times we'll say, "Hey, Julio, can you come on in and join one of our blending sessions?" And he'll give us his feedback, and which is very valuable. So
Yeah.
I think that it works because we work as a team, right? We all work together, and we all respect everybody's input.
More so too, because we know what we're looking for. We all
Mhm.
have like our profile. We know exactly what Cascanes is, and throughout that experimental phase of trying to replicate the profile, we're like, yeah, this is not quite it, and it's a little bit more of this, and we were just working nonstop. It was 11 plus stressful months for all of us, but we were working as a team, like JP was saying, and it was just more just, hey, and it's a little bit more of this, just we're keep on working on it until we all agreed on it. So it was more about what we were learning from every batch than not agreeing on it because we all knew what we were looking for.
Yeah.
Was there something in the profile that you guys were all, or in somebody in particular, looking for to let you guys know that you were going down the right path? You had
We
something?
did we did a lot of blind tasting, to be honest with you, comparing it to our previous product. So we all know. I mean, we've had. We probably couldn't even count how many gallons of Cazcanes that we've all drank, but I mean, so we know what it tastes like. And then when we were trying, like as Jose was talking about, we tried for those 11 months back and forth. We were coming up with some amazing tequila profiles, but they weren't exactly what we were looking for, right? I mean, we knew what we were looking for. And then when we started getting close, when we were there, then we started blind tasting. We would take the tequila batches and then take some of our best stuff we had produced previously and compared them. And when we got to the point where literally, I think almost nobody, the only person who actually could tell was Colin. And it was very, like, he was like, this is it. And like, this is the one that's a little, but that was it. Everyone else couldn't tell. Everyone's like, I don't know which one's which. So that's when we knew that we got it.
Did you guys? I mean, tequila. I mean, you guys aren't far from tequila. I mean, you're right there on the outer skirts. Did you guys ever take a batch and go into town and recruit people to see what they think?
No, I mean,
No.
Not
we've
really.
recruited other experts, but not just random people off the street. No. No, we've had other master distillers, well-known master distillers, come in and try our product and give us feedback and stuff like that. So, but no, not just some random borracho guy off the street. No.
There's a lot of tequila drinkers there in Tequila.
Too many.
Yeah, yeah. And some of the stuff that that they drink necessarily isn't.
No, I don't know that they would
Yeah.
be really your
Prime candidate to tell you if you're doing right.
I don't think so. Yeah,
I wouldn't drink
they're not,
what they're drinking.
they're not your focus group. I don't think, CJ.
Well, you got that one bar, the oldest bar there in Tequila, not far away from Fortaleza. I'm sure you could find
La
a few.
Capilla?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you could find a few good candidates, and I hear Guillermo hangs out there quite a bit.
Guillermo. Yeah, we run into Guillermo all the time.
He is such an amazing guy.
Yeah,
I got to hang out with him one evening, and it was just man, he's a hoot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've had some good times.
Katrina.
Yeah, we've had some good times with him as well early on in our tequila adventures.
Yeah,
but it's always a good time.
So what's next? I mean, I know you guys love to experiment. I mean, is there just something that you guys got that it's been on the back table, and it's like now that we got all these things cooking, you got 7 through 10 on almost every expression, you're starting to do some of the Rosa stuff. I guess who started the Rosa stuff? Who thought, okay, we're going to throw some tequila in a wine barrel and start playing around with some stuff? And
remember Colin's a winemaker, right? So it kind of goes back to that. So we, a lot of the techniques that, and we may see some stuff in the future. I mean, but there's some winemaking techniques that may be utilized. We've done some of it with that Hoven, with the malolactic fermentation. And then, there's a lot of parallels with wine and tequila. I mean, you have terroir and you have some of obviously the fermentation. I mean, there's things that are similar, but, so when there's a winery that Colin works with up in Napa, it's a small vineyard. It's, the brand is Ona. It's a new brand that's releasing, but he's been working with this guy who's been growing grapes there for, I think, 30 years or something, or more than 30 years now. I think it's like since 97. And for fun, Colin goes up there and helps him prune grapes and then makes his wine, right? And so those barrels were available because they cycle them out. And then so we got those barrels and we did a batch last year of some Rosa, just 2 single barrels, one Blanco, one Reposado, and those sold out in minutes. So, and they tasted amazing. So then we thought, okay, let's get some more barrels from Napa, and that's what we did for this batch, the one that you have there. The first one, there was only a handful of. I mean, it sold out really quick. So I don't know if you have that one, but this if you just got that recently, it's the one we just released. And so those are all fresh, empty barrels from Napa, and then we transport them down to Mexico immediately, and then fill them right up. That's why you get a lot of color, because those barrels were still wet. So.
Nice.
As opposed to sitting there, and I mean you can't let a barrel sit; it's going to start to develop nasties, So it has to be dealt with pretty quick. And then so as far as also you'd asked what's coming up next. I mean, you never know what kind of cool stuff is happening, but I know just right now in the pipeline we have obviously the extra añejo is going to be next year. We're still working on the Hoven. I don't know if you ever had a chance to try our previous Hoven, but.
I have
a phenomenal product, very unique, very different. It was done with a malolactic fermentation, so it had a cheesy Parmesan-ish nose to it, but that translated into, it didn't taste like that. It just had that nose, but it had an amazing mouthfeel, very well-rounded. It had Blanco. It depends on which blend we made, but it was Blanco, Reposado, and extra añejo. And then the second batch we did was Blanco, añejo, and extra añejo, with different ratios. So that's been difficult to replicate because that was done at Familia Landeros and there was a particular environment there, right? And so now at TTAP, it's just different. So we're making headway, but it's taking longer than we wanted to. But that's still slated to be done. And then we also have we touched on the story with Umberto, right, in the moonshine tequila in the jungle. So we still have ties with Umberto. We visit him all the time. So he's become a friend of ours, and we've always wanted to work with him. We just couldn't really figure out a way to do it. And so more recently, because we have wider distribution now and everything like that, we said, hey, Umberto, let's work together. And he said, I'd love to. So he's actually producing an agave distillate for us that we'll release, it'll blow your socks off. It's amazing. This is what got us all into tequila, was the product that he makes. And so when Colin was going down to Mexico, he'd bring it back up to the States. He'd buy Centenario bottles, empty them out, and then fill them up with his stuff and seal them up and bring them back in his suitcase, and then let everybody try it. And people would say, this is tequila? Are you kidding me? Like, why does it taste so good? Like, this is not any tequila I've ever tried. So that's really what got Colin going, got him excited about tequila. And then so we're just revisiting our roots, and we're going to release it. He can only make so much. I mean, he makes everything. I don't know if you've ever heard the story, but he makes everything with a DIY. He made this autoclave. He uses a Chevy inline 6-cylinder with a manual transmission attached to a shredder box. That's how he shreds the agave. And then he has a trough that he uses the natural spring water and pitchforks and by hand to squeeze out the sugars from the agave. Then he open air ferments and then uses an open fire or wood fire still to distill it. So it's super old school, super DIY, but he makes some amazing stuff. So that is, we'll probably release that whatever Q1 next year.
Yeah, it's going to be around January, February. We were actually going to release it before the end of the year, but we're working on a very unique label for the project just because it has a lot of meaning behind it. Yeah, so you'll see a totally different look. Same bottle design, but the label is going to be specially dedicated to the entire project and Umberto.
Yeah, and I think you'll really dig that. That's just a really good product. It's because it's not made at a CRT facility. Yeah. It's going to be an agave distillate, but it's made with Blue Weber agave. It's made in the same fashion, so it's very much in the vein of tequila. It's just not called tequila. So
right. So kind of like Catalito or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing.
But there's a lot of lovers of that. So
great stuff.
So we're getting a few questions. People are asking if you're going to go to Costco.
We've had discussions with Costco
for 2 years probably already.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't really align with our pricing strategy. They're a discount store, and they typically will bring a brand in and heavily discount it. And we believe in giving, all of our retailers, a fair playing ground. And I think that's a little unfair if we can sell to one individual store and they'll discount it $20 to $30 less than, what everyone else is selling for. But there are certain Costco's that are aligned with our strategy. So I know Costco's soon going to be opening a store in Napa. And they recently put a PO in for some añejo. So look for añejo in Napa at their new store. And then maybe down the line, there might be some exclusive releases for Costco that align with, kind of what we're looking to do with them. So it's not out of the question, just not in the cards at the moment, for the exception of the Napa store.
Okay. Is Good Juice a place?
Good Juice was an event. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's the one that Old Town Tequila puts on, right?
I don't know that they put it on. No, it was Montagave. It was John from Montagave that put it on, but it's near Old Town, so
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember talking to the owner of Old Town, and he was talking it up pretty heavy one day.
Did you talk to Z?
Yeah.
Zach.
Z, yeah, is that Z?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The dad, right? Not Roman.
The dad.
Okay.
Yeah. Funny story. I was on my way back from Mexico, and I was standing in line, and he was sitting in first class, and got my luggage and everything, and I got a Cazcanes T-shirt. He said, "Good stuff there," and I saw he had a hat on, and I forget whose hat he had on, and that's how the conversation started. And we ended up finding each other after we got off the plane, and we started asking each other all kinds of questions. And he's like, "Man, if you
He's
ever
a super
make
nice guy.
if you ever make it to San Diego, man, look me up." He goes, "I got like 3,000 bottles up there in my office." He goes, "Man, we'll just break some open and sit down and chat." So, yeah, I thought he had something to do with it. So, yeah, I totally forgot about Good Juice being that down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny you bring up Old Town. Old Town also has one of our single barrels. It's a number 9 in yellow, and it's available online. It's a great option that they picked as well.
There's an actually interesting story on that, on how they picked that. So, most of the guys would fly. I think Roman's been to the facility and he's tried some stuff. But basically, when we finally had a bunch of samples, Z said, "Hey, bring them to me to the Monterey Tequila Festival. I want to try them there." And then so I don't remember how many I had. I probably had 6, 7 different samples. And so he comes over and he goes, "Okay, let's pour them out." And then he goes, "Let's let the ladies pick." And then he grabbed all these women they're amazing aficionados. I mean, there were a handful of them, and they know what they're talking about. And he says, "Okay, I want you guys to go through all these and give me tasting notes, and then start whittling them down." And that's what they did. Started going through them all, and then at the end, they all had a consensus. They're like, "That one," and he's like, "All right, that's what I want." And they picked an amazing barrel, right? But I thought it was cool that he let them all go through it, and they were going back and forth with each other, trying them, talking about it. He was listening. "Okay, that sounds great. Let's do that one." And they did a really good job. So that's how that barrel got picked.
Do they still have that?
I think they do. I checked.
Checked. Well, hopefully everybody doesn't beat me to the site, because I'll have to go and try to pick up a bottle now.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll race this part.
And you also, touching back on what else we have in the works, I think some new barrel finishes would be something. We didn't touch on, I don't know if you're aware, but we actually refinish all of our barrels too. So we work with a Coopersmith in Amatitan, which is just down the street from us. Mm-hmm. And he reworks all of our barrels. So we have them scrape out all the previous char, and then we rechar them at different levels. So we have some light, some medium, and some heavy char barrels, and that helps us when we do our blending, because we have all different, variations in barrel intensity and color and stuff like that. So it helps us when we're doing our blend. We always call it our spice rack. So we look at our blends, and we actually did create a new rack to make it easier to swap barrels in and out. But we look at it just like you're cooking, and you're like, "Oh, it needs a little bit more, in this case, barrel note, or need a little more sweetness, a little more bitterness to cut the sweetness," or whatever the case may be. Or, "Hey, I like what's coming out of this barrel. Let's add that." And that's how we're creating those blends. It's very intentional, and I mean, it takes us a minimum of a week every time we do this, going back and forth. So it's a tough job, but someone has to do it.
Yeah,
sign me up.
And so, talking about what we may do in the future for other expressions, some different barrel finishes. We just got in. I don't know if did they show up today, Jose, the Oloroso sherry barrels.
Yeah, they did.
So we do like a sherry finish, and we're looking for some other really unique barrels at this point in time, just to do either double barrel something or completely age in it. We're still deciding.
Any exotic wood barrel finishes?
Potentially. I mean, everything's on the table. So that's what we have just right now, but we're actively looking. So
another question I'm seeing coming across: how many bottles are typically made in a batch?
Jose is the man for this.
12,000, about 12,000. It depends. Like, for example, for the Rosa, we ended up doing 20,000 bottles, give or take about 20,000 bottles of each expression, Rosa Blanco and Rosa Repo. The rest, we do small batches depending on the needs of the market. give or take. For example, we just did a 4,000 case, like 22,000 bottle repo, but it was in three different batches. It wasn't just one big batch. It was a 4,000 case shipment with three different batches. So it's kind of, it depends on the need. That's more. It depends on what we end up working on the blends that we do with Colin. JP come in. We start. Hey, for example, I tell him I need 2,000 cases worth of repo, and that usually takes about 45 barrels. But for 45 barrels, we have to open about 200 barrels in order to come out with that blend. And the best case scenario would be we find 45 barrels that ended up creating the batch that we want or the profile that we want, but more so that hasn't happened. And it's usually one blend that's 11 barrels, another blend that's 20, and then another one that's 8 or something like that. So every time it's different.
So you are you, Jose? I know you got a bad job. It really must suck.
That's why
You have to go down there and you have to try 45 barrels. I mean,
that would be the final. In order to get 45 barrel blend, maybe
Yeah,
You have to go through 200.
You
You
got
have
to
to go
try
over
200 plus to
200.
even get down and narrow it down to the 40s.
my heart
So-
pours out for you, my man.
Yeah, so a funny story with that is when we started, it was fun, 70 barrel. The most we had was 70 barrels, but when Colin and I started working this, we had 3 barrels, and we went from 3 to 14 barrels, and then he would come in, we would do them. We would do a little carne asada, we would come back and stuff like that. Now it's no, hey, Colin, I need you here on Monday. We start on Tuesday at 10 a.m. We'll go to lunch at 1. We come back at 3, and then we have to finish by 6 p.m. And then we do this again until we're finished. So it's become more of a work, but it is fun to be able to, every barrel is different. The char, it's different. I mean, you can show, it's just amazing what you can do with barrels and how wood reacts with the tequila. If it was a production that it was in the summer, it's a second fill. There's so much into it. It is fun, but it is a lot of work.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we're obviously a completely additive-free product, so there's only a few ways that you can really manipulate, the different flavor profiles. So you have to get very, unique and strategic, and we have a lot of fun, with different char levels, refinishing barrels, and like JP touched on, actively seeking to get some very unique barrels and doing some unique single barrel projects. But it's always fun. And batches, like Jose touched on, it varies all the time. I mean, we have, some months we'll look and we're like, oh my God, we need Repo. Oh my God, we need Blanco, or oh my God, we need Añejo. And, it's constant blending, and it's definitely fun. And then once you scale, it's just more frequent trips and a lot more tequila to taste.
So how many states are you guys in?
I think it's 35 or 36 now.
Yeah, we're in
states.
about 36 different markets. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of demand.
And then we just launched in Mexico, which is Jose's heading that up. So it was, if he didn't have enough on his plate already, we just launched in Mexico about a month ago, less than a month ago now.
I just did the count. It's a start. Mexico is tough, and about 45 cases. It's a lot for Mexico.
But they're in all the top bars and top restaurants. So like top notch spots. So it's pretty cool that we're getting some traction there.
Yeah, we actually have it's an all Spanish label in Mexico. So if you guys are ever in Mexico and want to pick up a unique, bottle of Cazcanes with a different label, it's available.
You can see here, like that's one of our blending sections. Every single one of those little plastic bottles on the table is a sample out of a barrel. So then that was Don Chico and Nestor and myself, and we were blending that, like the final profile to try it.
Let's take 70 of this and 30 of that, and how's that taste? Nah, it's no good. I mean,
that's how we do it.
After about 10 editions of it, can you taste anything anymore?
Well, that's why we have to taste it. And so we take breaks, and then also once we do feel like we have a final blend, we let that sit, and then we come back the next morning on fresh palettes, and then we try it again. And then do we still feel the same way about this now? And then those are kind of like the tests that we apply to every single blend. So it's not just like, yeah, there we go, we nailed it. It's we have to keep trying it and make sure that we still feel the same way.
We got some more questions. Are you
Sure.
in Puerto Vallarta?
Not yet. Puerto Vallarta?
Yeah, it's coming.
Actually, I just got the PO for Sayulita today, and I'm delivering it tomorrow. So within the next couple of weeks. So that's actually one of my orders from today.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we just got a
Nice.
couple accounts in Cabo, so it'll start popping up. I mean, it's about a month in, so it'll start popping up in different various places in Mexico for sure. I think someone asked, I have it here, if transporting the water is factored into the pricing structure. 100%. I mean, the water source comes from Jose's hometown, which is in Osta del Piquillo. It's about an hour and a half from the distillery each way. And you need obviously multiple trucks.
This is, I have some, look at that. That's the, I don't know if I can get some
That is
glare out there.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That is beautiful.
it takes multiple trips, multiple truckloads. We had to buy a stainless steel water truck to fit within our schedule because before we were renting trucks and we were at the mercy of their schedule, driver schedules, and it was always so challenging. And now at the scale we're at, we can't really rely on anybody else's schedule. So we did invest in a water truck. We own our own water truck. It constantly goes back and forth between Osto and Amatitan. And it's a significant expense, but for us, it's really important because that's how our story started. And we want to stay true to the roots of the brand, prior to us growing to the scale we're at. So yes, the water truck's driving back and forth, multiple trips a day.
On dirt roads and
on dirt roads, off-road. Honestly, I'm surprised that it doesn't require more maintenance than we've already invested in it.
The first time.
The price of our product does factor the water. I mean, also to keep in mind, we heavily get compared to other brands that are owned by distilleries. We don't have that luxury, so automatically we also pay anywhere from 20 to 30% higher for our juice. And we're also a very high demand client. So, at TTAP, there's no one as
high
involved.
Maintenance. We're very high maintenance.
Yeah, high maintenance, high demand. I mean, when we went to TTAP for the first time and started explaining how we need to work and what we need to do in order to really get to where we want to get to, they were like, "What do you mean you need to open every barrel? What do you mean this is how you do it? What do you mean you're bringing water?"
I think they thought we were crazy. I think they literally thought we were making it up. Like during those, I think they said, "These guys are nuts. They're not going to do any of this stuff."
Yeah. And then next day we're trucking in tanks for our water, and our water truck is showing up. They thought we were insane. But now they have like a total different appreciation for like who we are and what we do, because they see how passionate we are about the brand and the juice we put out into the market. I mean, we're constantly there. I think we're one of the only clients that's there, regularly, aside from Jose, obviously living in town. But we're super passionate about what we do, and we're grateful, that we have such amazing, fans of the brand and supporters, and, that we've been able to scale the brand as fast as we have and get to share great memories and great juice with everyone.
I missed you guys by 1 week when you were at 1599. I was on my way there, and I think it was a week prior to, I saw the post go out that you guys just moved, and I was like, son of a gun. Come on.
Well, we'll get you in there February 1st.
Awesome.
Or prior if you make it out there before then.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you sell directly to the restaurants there in Mexico? I think that's what this guy's trying to ask.
For him, I will.
For him, you would. Do you know who he is?
No, but I mean, in Mexico, it's a little bit different than in the U.S. We can, the brand, as an owner brand, as a seller, I mean, you don't have to, does it work in the U.S.? You have to have a 3-tier system, right?
You have to have a 3-tier system, but
yeah.
it's not,
Here in Mexico, we can sell directly. So as soon as we're here, I mean, I'll give you my contact number, and then whoever wants to reach out to me, I'll go to Puerto Vallarta myself if I have to. Spend a couple of days there.
Oh, that sounds rough too. Man.
Yeah.
Mexico is just
You guys-
the big issue is the taxes. So that's why
Yeah.
like you'd see like the prices in some cases are higher than here in the States because the taxes are just insane in Mexico on spirits.
in different, we'll say
It's just
states.
it's a 50. Jose can explain. So 58% plus a 16%. I mean,
53 and a 16%.
53. Oh,
It's
53.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a 53 yeps and then a 16% tax, which ends up like if once you do the math, that's like a 78% tax on because the first one's a tax. The sales tax is a tax on the it's insane. It took us months to understand it, but that's actually why one
It
of the reasons.
compounds. Like
Yeah.
so, it just gets. Yeah.
Daily?
No, I mean it compounds like when it moves from one person to the next person to the next person. You just have to keep adding. It can be
Yeah.
very expensive. That's why it took us so
don't
long to
even
figure
try
out
to
how.
comprehend it. Yeah.
Yeah, it took
Don't
us.
even try.
We had to hire some experts, and they had to run through and it made none of it made any sense. And so it's difficult. That's why you don't see a lot of the brands that you see here down there. It just doesn't make sense financially.
Yeah.
For
Well, that's
us,
what I was
it's
just getting
more.
ready to ask. Is that the reason why a lot of brands avoid selling to Mexico?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for us, it was just more a presence thing and wanting to have it available there, as opposed to any. Don't think at the end of the day we're ever going to make any money selling in Mexico. It's just it's just to have it accessible. And obviously, people think, hey, it's Mexican, it should be available in Mexico. Not everybody realizes all the good tequila comes to the U.S. But so we're just trying to make it available. And there's some key spots where we frequent, and we would like to be able to order it when we're there too. That's another thing.
And I have to go to the distillery, hit up Jose.
Yeah.
Hey, hook me up with
Grab a
some
bottle every single time.
you
Yeah,
got a rough
tax
job, dude.
I mean, I kind of enjoy what I do, so it's rough
Yeah, I
and
bet.
not rough at the same time.
So let's see. I think there was. All right, my question. I'll stop asking theirs. Hoven. Do we have another Hoven coming out anytime soon?
That's what I was mentioning to you earlier. The one we've
Yeah.
been having a little bit more difficulty trying to replicate that cheesy Parmesan-ish
Yeah.
flavor profile.
Yeah.
But we have made some inroads. Jose and I were just checking some. This is a lot. Like I mean, it's more than a conversation. But I mean, we've had tons of different samples made and so on and so forth. And each time we feel like we're getting a little bit closer. So we're hopefully going to have that next year for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah. And one thing to point out, I mean, also the delay has been obviously the brand is scaling very rapidly, and there's only a few of us, so it's prioritizing blending and making sure that we have stock in the U.S. for to support the 36 different markets. So we're pulled in a lot of different directions, and we kind of have to pick and choose like which battles to take, and some unfortunately kind of get pushed on the back burner. But it has been an active project for the last like year and a half. It's just certain things pop up and they become a priority. So hopefully we'll have some time and get it released this next year.
So we know bottle season's coming up. I mean, we're kind of in bottle season here in a week or so.
Bottle season?
New bottles come out, all those special limited editions, single barrel blends, funky blue cheese with pastrami on rye, all that good stuff. You guys got anything cooking that I know?
I mean, for us, obviously the Rosa was released like during the summer that we'll do once a year. We were planning on releasing our Destilado de Agave with Umberto during October, November. But we're going to push that back to, first month or two of the year. Just want to make the label a little bit more special, needed a little bit more time, didn't want to rush it. The juice is ready to go, but,
meanwhile, too, like he's also can only produce so much at a time. So it gives us a little more time for him to continue to produce. Right now, I mean, it's what can he produce, Jose? 1,000 liters a month?
Give or take.
Give or take.
Yeah, give or take, because during the rainy season it's a little bit harder. So from 600 to 1,000 liters a month.
So a very small amount. So
I bet you it's going to be amazing.
going to be amazing.
Mhm.
So we'll let the other bottles that other brands are release, the next few months, and then we'll start the year off right with something special.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'm out of questions. I'm sure I can chat here all night with you and just BS. I've really enjoyed our time together.
Of course.
You guys
Thanks for
got
having
any
us.
last
Thank
minute
you.
plugs or anything else that you guys want to throw out there that you can't think of that we already talked about?
No, I mean, no plugs. We're just grateful for the opportunity. Thank you for thinking of us and allowing us to share our story. We're, like I said, super humbled at, the fact that people love the juice, love the brand, and, we can continue to create, be experimental, and have an audience to kind of, talk to and celebrate our special juice with.
Well, you guys are welcome back anytime. Anytime.
Appreciate
You
it.
just reach out. We'll put a calendar together and make it all happen. Guys,
Definitely.
thank you so much for joining me tonight. I had a blast. This was
Awesome.
an amazing time, and I really look forward to coming down there and visiting the distillery. And maybe I'll get to try 45 barrels with Jose while I'm down there.
Anytime.
Hopefully I'm there too at
Anytime.
the same time that I can meet you.
The less I can
In
try, the
person.
better.
Yeah.
We'll
Oh
call
no,
on
this is a bad barrel. I'm going to take it home with me.
Oh, we've
We'll
done
call on you
every
for the
once.
next
That's the other thing
blend.
too. When you don't try all your barrels, you every once in a while, it's rare, but it happens. You get a bad barrel. Like we'll just throw it out. But if you're not checking it all, I mean, but think of
Yeah.
that. Would you make like, I don't know, an apple pie and then throw in one of the rotten apples? I mean, it's going to ruin the whole pie, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not testing or tasting every single one of these barrels, that could get in the mix. And that's also, we always, that's our little joke too. We'll find one like that, and then we'll say, hey, wait till this guy comes over here and be like, hey, what do you think of this? And then you can tell if someone has a palate or not, because every once in a while, the people who know will go, what is this? And then the people who don't know will say, oh no, it's good. It's really good. And you say, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, you guys are ornery.
Yeah, and those are the ones that aren't invited back.
All right, guys, man. I really appreciate it. You're invited anytime. You got some
Thank
new
you.
product you want to announce? Hit me up.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks for
you,
having us,
CJ.
CJ.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks,
you, guys. You
Have a
have a
great night.
wonderful evening.
Have a good one.
You too.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye.